To get started with this project, we want to go to the Data Files for Students folder, still working in Photoshop, and we have our Simba Selection folder here, which is where all the images that we need are. We're going to right click, open with, select Photoshop CS4. And there's our image, and I actually have all of the other images we're using already opened up. You can see they're all listed here, and they're all docked across the top of my right underneath the options bar. The first thing I want to do to this image is I want to make a crop selection. It's just a freeform crop. What I'm wanting to do is to make sure that this grass line, this back grass line, goes from edge to edge. Still want to keep as much of the sky and as much of the grass's bottom as possible. I like that selection, so I'm going to go ahead and press the check mark. Second thing I know about this is that it is in grayscale mode. We're going to be adding some fun colors to it, so we obviously need to make it a color image. So I'm going to change it to RGB. Our background layer here is locked. We need to have something to work on, so I'm going to right click and select layer from background. Go ahead and name this Simba. And now we're able to do some work. Well, the first selection that we're going to be working with is the background, or is the sky background. I'm going to use my magic wand tool. I like that my tolerance is 10 and that I have these two boxes selected. I'm going to make my selection here. That's a pretty clean selection. Also want to make sure I get this area over here, so by holding the shift key down, the plus sign comes up. I'm adding to the selection. Now I can also grab this area inside the tree that's kind of supposed to be peeking out going to be peeking out into the sky as well. I have my selection made, so now I want to bring up my sky. Here's my sky image. I'm going to just basically drag and drop it into the Simba image. Next, I'm going to go select inverse. So this selects everything besides what our selections were. And then I'm going to simply just press the delete button. And there we have our sky as the background. I'm going to press Control D to deselect the selection. And let's move on to the grass. Now when my little hand tool pops up, basically all I'm doing is holding the space bar down, and I'm using my hand, using my mouse to move the screen. It's a little easier than having to grab the hand tool every time. Again, I'm going to have my magic wand tool. I'm going to start, oops, a little mistake there, lesson learned guys. Make sure you're on the right layer. I want to make sure that I'm on the Simba layer. Okay, so I'm going to be selecting my grass areas now. Again, holding the shift key down to add to selections. Make sure I get all these little spaces in here. Attention to detail is key in graphic design. Looks like I have marching ants in all the right places. That's what I want to see. Now, I actually just made another mistake. I want to go ahead and make sure that my grass image is pulled over before I start doing this, and you'll see why in a minute. So here I'm just going to grab my move tool, go drag and drop it, and this way I can go Control T, transform, and I can work with the size, because this is a huge image and we really just need grass at the bottom, and we'd like for it to look as proportional as possible. So there, made it a little smaller. That fits a little better. Now never mind what you're seeing it covering up Simba. That's just because of how the layers are ordered. But it's not a problem. I have that transition made. I'm going to double click, or I could. Okay, so now that I have my grass layer moved over, I'm going to go ahead and hide it. We don't need to see that. I have the Simba layer selected using my magic wand tool. I'm going to go ahead and select the area for the grass. Make sure I get all these little small areas and not missing a thing. Okay, now we're going to go back to our grass layer. Well, actually, I'm going to select an inverse from here. Go to the grass layer. We can go ahead and make that visible and press delete. That way, that the only area that changed to be grass is that area that was selected, because we deleted everything else outside it. I hope everyone understands that. And we have small imperfections here, but that's not a problem. Those are little things that you can go back and retouch with your clone tools and whatnot later on. Next thing I'm going to do here is let's do some work on the tree. So let's go ahead and move over, let me see, our leaves. Our leaves for the tree. There we go. I'm going to drag, use our move tool, drag and drop. Now, this is a little small, so I'm going to press Control T and stretch out these leaves. Okay. Looks pretty good right there. And double click whenever I'm finished with that. Again, just going to hide it so we can go to our symbol layer and make our accurate selections. Oh, that almost got it all in one. Let's just make sure, zoom in close to make sure everything is selected. And it looks pretty good. So from there I'm going to select inverse, go back up to my leaf layer, and delete everything outside of that, and there we go. We have our leaves. Next thing we're going to work on is the bark of the tree. Make sure that I bring my tree bark over. Here we go. Since I have so many images open, I'm going to go ahead and undock that one. That'll be a little easier to drop it over here. And we can put it back up there, no problem. So, we have our bark over here. It is a little large, so let's go ahead and resize it. And it's shown up kind of funny like this just because of how we have our layers. Not a problem. In the end, it's going to give us it's going to do for us what we need it to do. I like that, so I could double click or press this check mark that I'm done with with my move and transitions. I'm going to go ahead and hide that, go back to the symbol layer, use the magic wand tool to make accurate selections. Now what I might want to do here is I'm going to go ahead and deselect that, and I'm going to change my tolerance. Let's bump that up to 20. Let's see if that helps us out. There we go. That got a lot more selected. Okay. We can go in and also add in these selection areas here. Then the tree limbs that show in amongst the leaves. Okay. That looks pretty good. So from there, I'm going to go onto the bark layer, like we've done with all the other ones. Select inverse while I'm on the bark layer and press delete. And there we have our tree bark. Our picture's starting to look more and more real. Last piece of landscape that we're going to edit here is the bushes. I'll go ahead and zoom in. We're going to make these some red bushes. So we need our dwarf bush. Use your move tool. Drag it on over. Alright, that looks about pretty good placement there. Go ahead and hide it. Let's go back to Simba and make our selections. Okay, might have to work with my tolerance again here. We don't want to select too much. There we go, that helps. Whenever I'm backing up, I'm basically just pressing Control Z. That's my undo. It's a quick undo. Okay. And you can show and select there. Select inverse and then delete. So we have just that area. Now I'm actually going to undo here and go back a couple of steps because I want to make more of an accurate selection. So I selected inverse again. It took me back to my little selection area. There we go. Now I've expanded it. Really just got to play around to see what's going to be best for your selection. Okay, that's a little better. I pay attention to detail like nobody's business. I think it's a good trait to have. Okay, so it looks like we got our landscape done. Gonna go ahead and deselect, take our marching ants away, and let's have some fun with Simba here. Let's give him some color. You know, tigers, or lions always have, you know, this little stripe down the center that's a different color. So let's first paint the main part of his body. I am on the Simba layer. Select there, that looks good. Holding down the shift key, selecting his leg and his neck, main part of his head, and his little areas above his mouth, and his tail, in there. Let's see, the outside of his ears, those need to be selected. Alright, that looks pretty good. I'm going to go grab one of my brushes. Now, what I have is I've selected that I wanted to work with the natural brushes. Okay, selected this, let's select one of these natural brushes here, bump up the diameter so we have, more will be coming out at one time. And let's pick a color down here on our background and foreground selection. Let's make him a little orange color. That looks pretty good right there. So what it's going to do is it's only going to paint the selection that we have. Alright, so I'm done with that. I'm going to go Control D and select that. Go back to my magic wand and select these inside areas and bottom of his chin. And how about we zoom in by pressing Control plus, and also select around the area around the device. Oops, and I messed up there because I didn't hold my shift key down. The area around his eyes, and I'm actually going to change this tolerance. A little bit more clean selection. So it's all just got to kind of play around to see really what is going to be best. I want to go ahead and select his feet down here too to do for the second color. See how my tolerance wasn't very high on the last selection, so I didn't get some of these areas in here. Hey, it's a lesson learned. Okay, that looks pretty good. So now let's come and make this more of a lighter color, a whiter color. Alright, using the same brush that I had, which you of course can use whatever kind of brush that you like. I'm going to go in, and there's just those areas that I had selected that are going to be painted. Control minus is to zoom out. We're painting his little belly and his feet. It looks pretty good. And the last thing I want to select and paint on Simba are his little ears and nose. We can make these a cute pink color. Paintbrush. Select in there. There we go. And how about let's make a small selection here and give this little boy some blue eyes. Blue eyes. Hold the shift key down, select there. Grab my brush, change my color. There. There you go. I hope you're happy with how Simba turned out, and I really look forward to seeing the things that you all have created as well. Just make sure when you're saving, you go File, Save As, and save in your appropriate folder on the N drive.